8th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. In the chair's excused absence, as your vice chair, I'll be presiding and call this meeting to order. Commissioner Harding, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now move to Executive Director Report, hearing from Alex Smith. Take it away, Alex.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanders. Right, we'll get this up and running, and I believe our clicker isn't working tonight, so I apologize. I will be saying next slide when it's time to move on. Go, yeah, all right. A lot has been happening since we last business meeting. For one, the Tenino Agricultural Innovation Park had its grand opening, and many of our port commissioners attended along with Mike Reed and myself, and it's a great achievement for South County, and so many partners went into making this a big success, including the port, which provided some seed money early on to help make this happen, to fund the position that really helped make this happen. So we were very excited to be there and support this effort and encourage folks to go and visit. Next slide. Derelict vessel operations. Our Port Marina team has partnered and helped with a DNR derelict vessel removal. It was a joint effort between DNR, the Squaxin Tribe, and NOAA. And there were 14 derelict vessels on Squaxin Island, and our team helped extract those vessels. Many of them were helicoptered off the island and taken over to the DNR Marine Station that's north of Squaxin Park. The project was also supported by NOAA's Marine Debris Program. So we're very excited to be able to be part of this and help rid Puget Sound of derelict vessels. Next slide. We had an excellent time as a group going and participating in the Pride Parade this year. So we thank everybody who attended and marched with the port. And we were very excited to be part of this event every year and look forward to doing it again next year. Next slide. Port tours. I just want to remind folks, port tours are back. I've got another slide that has even more details about them, but we have hosted a lot of folks recently. We had 50 students from Yale Middle School. We hosted a group of local homeschool students, members of the League of Women Voters of Thurston County. We had Port Commission candidates come and tour the Marine Terminal. We held our second free public tour. And we also had a group of students from Leadership Thurston County tour the airport to learn about unique business ventures out there and various workforce development opportunities in the aviation industry. We also wanted to thank our tenant Weyerhaeuser for sharing insights about their operations to folks who toured the Marine Terminal, and also Anthony's Home Port, because they've been providing free appetizer certificates to folks who come and attend our tour. The next free tour is on August 5th. Next slide. So we held a commission candidate open house. Just wanted to provide as much information as we can to the folks who have put their names out there in the hopper to run for port commission. So we had staff meet the port candidates. We provided them an overview of ports in general, our port and the port structure. And then we gave them a tour of our operations. We went from the Marine Terminal to the Stormwater Treatment Facility, Swantown Marina and Boatworks, and out to the Olympia Regional Airport, where they actually got to ride on the runways. Very exciting. And we closed with a Q&A with our business unit leaders and answered all the questions that our port commission candidates have. So we really appreciate the port staff who participated in that, and also to all the port candidates. All of them came, and so we're happy to have Rebecca Faust, Joel Hansen, Anthony Hempstead, Bob Ayal, Jerry Tumpas, and Craig Unsold. Next slide. Events. A lot of stuff has happened. So everything from the 25th anniversary of the Olympic Air Show at the airport to the 5th anniversary of our Summer Nights at the Port concert series, which unfortunately just ended last Friday night with Queen Mother. That concert was a record-breaking night for us with over 2,000 attendees. It was rocking, and thanks to Commissioners Harding and Sanders for opening it up with a bang. And then we just wanted to also thank our Port staff for all the time and effort they put into making those community events happen every year. And a very special shout out to Emily Gerton for leading the charge on all of the events. And she's gotten many kudos from the bands that participate in these and the folks who attend on how professionally run our events are. Next slide. We also had the Shoestring Circus here for the second year. It was a big success for them again this year. They had 14 shows, all of them were sold out. And this has become sort of a must-see event for families every summer. And they're very excited, as you can see in our comment there, to come back again next year. We're excited to host them again next year. Next slide. Last week, I was at the Washington Public Ports Association Director Seminar. It was over in Leavenworth, and it was a great time to just get together with fellow port directors, do some learning about things like commission transitions, how people work with commissions as they transition candidates through. And then we also learned a lot about a lot of things like financing for ports and AI. That was a good conversation. So watch for an AI policy coming your way. So it was a great time and very much appreciate the support of the Public Ports Association. Next slide. Just to reiterate, our free public tours, we brought them back again the past couple of years. They're held on the first Tuesday of every month. We have 2 left this year, August 5th and September 2nd. The tours start at 11 a.m. And if you'd like to sign up, you can email tours@portolympia.com or just go to our website and you can find the link there as well. Next slide. We have some new members of our port team. We're very excited. So from left to right on your screen, we have a long-term temporary maintenance technician, Jim Unziker. And Jim has actually worked at Batdorf and Bronson Dancing Goats Coffee Roaster for his whole career. And we're very excited to bring him on as well. And he will help us maintain that building and the grounds associated with it, as well as other port facilities. Next to him is Tamara Parrish. She is a maintenance tech 1. She has a lot of horticultural and groundskeeping experience. She comes to us from working at Evergreen State College. We're very excited to have her there. That's a great part of our succession planning for our grounds and maintenance crew. And then in the middle there is our temporary harbor operations assistant. This is one of our summer positions, Ryan Crowley. And Ryan is actually the son of our accounts payable guy, TJ Crowley. So we're excited to keep him in the family. Next to Ryan is another summer hire. This is our temporary airport maintenance and grounds assistant, Luke Money. And so we're excited to have Luke joining us. And then we have a new airport maintenance technician, Steve Fulton, and he's the one on the right. Steve comes to us with a ton of really awesome experience. So we're very excited to have him. Next slide. Okay, there was a lot, sorry, you get a lot of Alex tonight. And then we still have some events coming up. So South Sound Block Party is in August 22nd and 23rd. Movies at the Marina start August 30th. And then we have another movie on September 6th. Those are all family friendly, family out. And the movies this year are Shrek and the original Jumanji. And then Music at the Park is out at the Port Plaza on July 30th. I think there's a couple of jazz bands that night. And then last but not least, Labor Day weekend, Harbor Days are down on the waterfront and we'll be occupying part of the Port Plaza. So next slide. Last but not least, we welcome your input. Here are the various opportunities for folks to connect with us. So please take advantage of those. Hearing from you. That isn't it. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Alex. Next on the agenda is E, public comment. Please note there's a new process for online Zoom public comment. Those wishing to provide verbal public comment may do so in person or in Zoom. The new Zoom process is to be provided comment by 4 p.m. at the day of the meeting. And a Zoom link will be provided no later than 2 hours prior to the meeting. And also always written comment is always welcome in person. And so With that announcement, I'd like to move forward with comments that should be directed to the commission as a whole and should not include comments about individual court staff or members of the public. All speakers and members of the public, court staff, and commissioners shall be courteous in language and shall confine remarks to those facts germane and relevant to the issue under discussion. So we have one in-person person signed up to comment, Lee Reiner.
Thank you for allowing me to give public comment in person. I saw that the Port of Olympia now has a new process for Zoom meeting, being able to talk and give public comment on the Zoom. You have to pre-register. When I saw that, it was sent out last week. I immediately pre-registered to speak on Zoom for Olympia public comment. I never received notification that that was going forward. Of course, like many people and like most people who have internet, I receive over 200 emails a day, and I have a difficult time going through my emails to see what's what. I always check my Zoom, I always check my spam, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I never received from the Port of Olympia confirmation that I was allowed to speak tonight. So because I saw at 5 o'clock, I was not allowed to speak, and there was no one else listed for public comment, I jumped in the car and came down here to let the Port of Olympia know this is entirely unacceptable. I mean, maybe if you had given a grace period for people who wanted to speak on public comment with a Zoom meeting, so they could speak, but you didn't give a grace period. You immediately jumped into this. And I myself had problems. I did not see where I could get on the Zoom meeting tonight so I could give public comment. It seems like the Port of Olympia is constantly, again and again, trying to keep the public from being able to interact. We've been promised work sessions for months and months and months here in this room so we can ask questions about the cleanup. Have we ever received a work session? No. We have all these movies, we have bands playing, but to the hard work, to the $200 million cleanup that we have should be going on out here. Have we had the work session that we were promised 6 months ago? No, we have not. So I am here to express my frustration at the Port of Olympia. We have lots of new candidates that are coming forward to be elected to the Port of Olympia. We have asked again our new candidates to have transparency here at the Port of Olympia so that the public who cares deeply about the Port of Olympia, who cares deeply about our beautiful Bud Inlet here and the cleanup. Many of us are concerned that the Port Peninsula, the cargo operations here at the Port of Olympia have failed to provide Thurston County with an adequate return on investment. This is a Weyerhaeuser lease. We feel like the Weyerhaeuser lease should not be renewed, but we never hear any comments or concerns or studies on this. We just going forward, get along, everybody vote in lockstep. You are depriving the public of the future opportunity to have public access to this peninsula. We wanted a park. We've talked about a park. Some candidates in the past have told me they wanted a park. They didn't want to have more and more buildings, but that's what we're going to get with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee Renner. Without any further sign up for public comment, the next order of business is the consent calendar. Under the consent calendar, we have the Flying Club lease approval of the minutes for commission meeting May 12th, 19th, and 27th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, G, pending issues or business. There are 3 briefings. Lot utility update, Foreign Trade Zone 216, and Olympia Art Space Alliance. These briefings are informational purposes only. No action or vote will be taken. The first briefing is lot utility update presented by Matt Kennelly, Executive Director. Welcome.
For having me. Yeah, it's that time of year that I'm out seeing all of our partner jurisdictions at Lot and sharing with them what we're doing. And I thought I'd offer coordination with Alex to see if you all wanted to get an update as well, as I've done in previous years. So thank you for having me. I appreciate that. My name is Matt Kennelly, as you said, Executive Director at Lot. Next slide, please. So I had 4 topics I wanted to talk about tonight. One is our role as a regional utility, that service that we provide. The next is about our performance and how we did over the last year, how we try to make connections to our community when we put new infrastructure in, and then also how we're accommodating planning for the future. Because as you all work on economic development, you want to know too that Lot has it covered, that we make sure that we accommodate that growth and it's not a barrier. Next. Lot, as a reminder, stands for Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County. So we're a partnership of 4 local governments that got together almost 50 years ago to provide wholesale wastewater treatment services in the community. The board of directors that we have is 1 elected official from each of the partner jurisdictions. You may recognize some of the folks here. We meet monthly, once a month on the 2nd Wednesday of the month to get business done. And our mission is to protect public health and the environment by cleaning water and restoring resources for our community. We've evolved quite a bit. So almost 50 years ago, when Lot was formed, there was just a handful of employees. Lot was an entity that would pay the city of Olympia to run the main treatment plant down here. And so there's a lot of work done in the 1970s and focus on Bud Inlet in particular. Ultimately, Lot was formed. But really, the Lot you see today is about 25 years old. It was called Lot Wastewater Alliance. I put our old logo up there. And that set into motion the employees of Olympia coming over to Lot. So a lot of the things that you see today are about 25 years old. And so we do planning efforts. We look out another 25 years. So we're looking out to 2050, making sure that we can continue building on that legacy that others have done that work before us. Next. Our service area is about 140,000 people, just over 60,000 connections. The ratepayers themselves that we have are actually served through the cities. So the cities are the one that decide where that growth happens. They decide where those collection pipes go from people's homes, from businesses, from industries. And when those pipes connect into other cities, that's when Lot takes over. You can think of us as just, as I said before, doing that wholesale wastewater treatment service. So we are basically the treatment plant for the 3 cities. Thurston County is part of Lot because as the cities grow into Lot. So our ratepayers that we have in the city is about 10%. Those are the ones in the urban growth area. Next. How we do our treatment is primarily down here as your neighbor, treating 13 million gallons per day at our Broad Inlet treatment plant. When you have your new headquarters, your offices will be even right adjacent to the treatment plant, right close to us. We have a major process upgrade that we recently did to carry us forward and remain that #1 treatment plant on Puget Sound, meaning that we provide the highest level of treatment on Puget Sound. The analogy I like to give for 13 million gallons per day is if you take a football field and build a 4-story building on it and fill the entire thing with raw sewage, that is the amount of water that comes down to us every day, broken, that will hurt you and the environment. That's our job, is to make that clean and safe for you and the environment. And so there's a lot of infrastructure that takes. So even outside of our main treatment plant, there's a variety of other infrastructure that I listed here under other infrastructure. It's about $1 billion of infrastructure that we're responsible for managing. Next. We're very highly regulated. So our permit comes from the Department of Ecology, but it comes down through from the EPA, ultimately started from the Clean Water Act. We have very stringent requirements on how many tests that we do, how many things that we check every day, every month, every year and report on. We also have a requirement called CMOM, which is basically a requirement that we need to make sure that we adequately fund and build infrastructure to maintain capacity in our system. Next. So our performance, you can go to the next one, please. Our performance, we put out an annual report last year It goes through all variety of things aligned with our strategic plan. And I brought copies with me if you like hard copies. You click next, the page on the back of the brochure, you can click next, please. On the back, I don't know if you can quite see it there, but the amount of gallons that we treated this last year, 4.46 billion gallons. You mean think about that number, and over 23,000 laboratory tests. So our permit requires on the order of about 15,000 tests. And then we do a variety of other tests and things. We have 91 staff members that work to get that done and meet our mission. Next slide. And then we validate that not only by meeting permit, but we also submit for awards. These are gold awards that we won in 2023. We're waiting on the 24 ones to come in. Basically, we have 0 instances where those pollution discharge limits are exceeded, things like nitrogen that were regulated on heavily. Next. As I mentioned before, we have the highest level of treatment on Puget Sound. So there's 57 other treatment plants like us that discharge into Puget Sound. We're regulated to be the highest level of treatment that way for about 30 years. So we're very proud of doing that. Overlaying that, I share that we have below average rates. So this is on the right side is a wastewater rate comparison of utilities in our region. So when you take the lot treatment charge and add it to what the cities provide, because the cities have to convey that water and they charge their ratepayers as well, you can see that we're all well below the average. So you take the highest level of treatment and combine that with below average rates, and we believe that that shows a good value to the community. Next. We also submit for major project awards. These are 4 we won last year for a major project upgrade. Proud of all of them. It was nice because we got 4 and we have 4 board members, so we could take a great picture. But that last one, the National Excellence in Engineering Grand Award, got to travel to Washington, D.C. for that one because we were one of 8 projects in the whole country that won for best design. And these are projects like City of New York, transit, whatever, these giant mega projects. So it was pretty cool to be part of one of the 8 that won that grand award for our upgrade. Next. We also reuse a variety of resources and capture them and reuse them. So biogas is a main one. So our digesters are producing methane gas. So we capture that methane gas. We use all of it. We produce heat and power. About 15% of our plant power can come from our biogas that we use. That heat heats our administration building. It heats the process. It also heats the Hands-On Children's Museum next door. Next. The biosolids is that solid material that comes off the process. That's used as an offset in Eastern Washington as part of a farmer-led program. Instead of using anhydrous ammonia, they use biosolids because it has nitrogen, phosphorus, moisture. And you can this picture in the center compares anhydrous ammonia on the left to biosolids. This is from the farmers in that very, very large program. We're actually a small portion of this very large biosolids land application program. Next. And then the last one is water reuse. So when we reuse water, we can use it as drop for drop offset of anything that you would use other than drinking. So in this case, irrigation is a huge use of that. Of that 13 million gallons per day that comes down to us at lot, we produce about 1.5 to 2 million gallons per day in the summer. And that's beneficially reused out in the environment. So for example, the Tumwater Golf Course uses 600,000 gallons per day of reuse water. So drop for drop, that doesn't have to use drinking water supplies. It's very beneficial to use water in this way. The port here for irrigation uses reclaimed water from lot. Next. Next slide, please. And so when we create this public infrastructure, our model has been to look for community connections when we build that. So the golf course needed 600,000 gallons per day of water. We needed to build a big storage tank in order to instantaneously provide that because we don't produce all that all at once. And so the tank you see in the upper right was built into the hillside in the Deschutes Valley. And then we worked with the city of Tumwater to come over and they built a park on top of it. In front of the Hands-On Children's Museum, there's a stream where citizens can enjoy the benefits of reclaimed water and learn about it. It's very, very busy, as it will be as we get hotter into next week, in this week. And then out in Hawks Prairie, there's infiltration that we do with reclaimed water. So that's a public park that's free and accessible and pretty heavily used, considering, you know, lots of warehouses have been built in that area over time. Next. On the education side, when we built our administration building almost 15 years ago, the board had that foresight to think about putting a wet science center in. So that's that same thing. Look for that community connection piece. So each year we see thousands of people. 12,000 people is what we saw last year through that program. And it's a bit different than just, you know, having people come through a passive museum. They learn about water. We actually have on-staff educators that integrate with each of the school districts that are in our service area, North Thurston, Olympia, and Tumwater, to actually connect into the curriculum. And that's what keeps them coming. And then when there's a barrier for buses getting there or substitutes or anything, we pick up that tab in order to make sure that there's not barriers to certain school districts to access that type of education. So it's that STEM growth of the younger students. Next. Taking that same community approach is where we've shifted into a water quality approach. So the graph you see on the pie chart you see on the left is from Department of Ecology on the sources of oxygen depletion in Butt Inlet. And you can see that Butt Inlet Treatment Plant is 3%, the smaller slice of the entire pie. And I don't show that to say that Lot doesn't need to do the highest level of treatment that we can do, but I show that because there's a larger story at play on the impacts to Butt Inlet. And so it's why Lot has participated in the Capitol Lake to Deschutes estuary work, why we're doing septic to sewer conversion support, why we're supporting more treatment regulations on other treatment plants. So that's the total picture, is what we're focusing on now. You know, the model before was very much about water conservation, which is still very important, but really what drives our permit and where we need to build new infrastructure a lot of times is that nitrogen load that comes to us or in the receiving waters. And so that's why we're really focusing on the big picture here. Next. That type of thinking has helped us form even stronger relationships with the Squaxin Island tribe. We signed an accord with them this last December because we're focusing on the Deschutes estuary together and focusing on water quality efforts and really just memorializing the work we're doing and pointing in the right direction. Same thing with our regulator ecology. It's a great feeling to be on the same side working towards one goal. And we wanted to memorialize that with them and keep working towards even more. And that type of thinking also we submit for things like awards. This National Association of Clean Water Agencies gave us this Watershed Collaboration Award, you know, and that gets picked up in the local news. And then our ratepayers understand, hopefully, that part of that larger picture that we're working on. Next. Septic to sewer conversion rebates and affordable housing is part of that. 50% discount we're providing for connection fees, because ultimately there is a water access to these type of incentives. Next. And the last one with community connections I want to share is that Thurston Region has climate goals. And so we're the largest power user in Thurston County, as I understand. Our bill is pretty high. It's about $1.5 million a year just in power. And we've been focusing on reducing our footprint. So the grid has gone greener over time, so that's helping us, but we've reduced our power considerably. About 30% decrease overall in our carbon footprint for some of these major changes that we made. And when you take into account the fact that people have been moving to town and providing more flow and we have to pump more water and those type of things, it's about a 42% decrease per capita. Next. So I want to show you next, please. Yes. That how we're planning for growth. And so the decisions that you all are making as you're supporting economic growth. And, you know, I want you to know that we do have it covered. And sometimes I talk to some of you and you say, you know, can Lot handle this? And really my default answer is yes, with enough time, that's our job. And those growth decisions are made outside of Lot. We want to be the ones that make sure that we just support that. because ultimately we're collecting connection fees, or we're connecting these, the cities are connecting the residents and the businesses, and then we have enough time to build that treatment capacity. So how we do that is a lot of planning. So every year we're working on tracking how much flow is coming to us, how much nitrogen is coming to us, connecting all of that into capacity assessments, how we manage assets, meaning that equipment itself. We have 5,000 pieces of equipment that we track. And then ultimately that gets into a capital improvement plan, a biennial budget that we do. So we look out 6 years. We also look out 20 years. Next. It's also consistently doing capital project efforts. Our board has consistently adjusted rates 3% for almost about 13 years now. And that's allowed us to live within those means and allowed us to plan projects and slide them around as we do our capital projects. A major one that we're doing that you might see, the big crane that's over top of the plant right now, is for this project here. You can get the scale of the project by the people that are on the roof of this one. That's one of 4 digesters that we have. We have to replace a lot of equipment, but the covers themselves, because these were built in the 1980s and needed to be upgraded. That's $34 million. It's a big project. We're fortunate to get some low interest loans to be able to accomplish that. But that crane will be up there for another 2.5 years. And Franklin Street is closed, and we had coordinated with port staff in advance of that. So we appreciate that collaboration. Just a lot of work, but basically in order to stay ahead of growth, we need to maintain our capital projects. That is 75% of our budget is just doing these capital projects. And so with that comes with those consistent rate adjustments and making sure that we can fund all of this. Next. And then we have this future technologies pilot team, which is a team of our own staff that have carved out time to test out new technologies. So it's a process by which anybody at Lot can submit a form and say, I think we should try this. And then it's run through a process. So what does it need? What's the investment? What are we looking to gain? What are we going to test? What are we going to track? What instruments do we need in order to measure things? So lots of things go into this. We're able to test usually about 1 at a time, maybe 2 to 4 a year we can test out. Next. I want to come back to water reuse, because this is where our pilot team is working next, because water reuse has its limits. We still want to always be producing a water quality that can be put on irrigation. You don't need to treat it all the way to drinking water levels to put it back on the ground. But at the same time, there are levels beyond where we're going that you can treat water and that really unlock more possibilities. And so I'll show you what we're working on next. Next slide, please. It's called a drinkable water demonstration project. So this is called Class A plus by the regulations. Class A water is what's currently called for producing reclaimed water. So Class A plus is in the current Washington state regulations, and it's never been done before. It's just this little line saying Class A plus is allowed on a case-by-case basis. So that's what we're working on now with the regulators to chart that course. But, Lot's future capacity involves creating, getting water out of Butt Inlet, letting more be used out in our community. That's years ahead, but we also recognize with climate change, water rights, all of these drivers, there's really going to be more push to have available water supplies. So we're seeing this as just another option in the future that you can actually take water all the way to drinkable standards. The technology has existed for decades. And our goal is to just demonstrate that it can be done, not connect any pipes. No, this is a decades-long public conversation, but actually producing it and having some fun with it, because other states that have done this think up with breweries, and they brew beer and they have a party and everybody has a good time. We're going to look to do non-alcoholic options as well, just for accessibility. But Squaxin Island Tribe is part of this. SPSCC Brewing and Distilling is signed on to be part of this. It's going to be a pretty cool event when we can get this done, which will be probably fall of next year by the time we get through it all. Next slide. Ultimately, the project goal is to demonstrate that water should be judged by its quality and not its history. And when you really kind of get to that point and you're just making water, it really can unlock so many possibilities. So much public infrastructure has gone to being a two-pipe system, and eventually, ultimately, it would need to be a one-pipe system way in the future. Next. And finishing off here, we have plans for 2050. We work with port staff. I've showed you this diagram before. It's an older image as far as opportunities that we might be able to like purchase land for parts around the plant, and really that yellow area down on the west side there is really where we need to focus next if that's a possibility. But the goal though is that our main treatment plant can produce this high level treatment, and so we're investing in infrastructure at that plant rather than build brand new treatment plants all around the community, which is very costly, and also trying to site a treatment plant in any neighborhood would be a little bit difficult. And I think the greenest thing to do is just to focus on the infrastructure we have. So that regional collaboration for water quality, resilience, sea level rise that we're working with the port right now on, that's really going to be the future for us. Next. Which includes selling off some property that we bought in the past to build new treatment plants. So we already had sold a property recently, our Mullen Road plant, our Mullen Road property. We sold the city of Lacey. We offer that back to the jurisdiction that it's in to see what the best use in that jurisdiction. We're talking to City of Tumwater about property that we own, what we call the Deschutes Valley or the brewery area. And so there's a Henderson South property kind of near the airport to let you know about that'll be up for sale because the City of Tumwater told us that they're not interested in purchasing that one. So that'll ultimately get on the market. Next. And I can't forget the staff that make it happen 24/7. I just grabbed some cool photos that I found in the files, but they do the dirty jobs and also the clean jobs, which is the next slide. And anything from maintenance to construction to water testing, all that. All told, we have said about 91 people that get it done day in and day out. Next one. And we have something called the Lot Way. We memorialize where our culture was in the last couple of years. That innovative culture, solving problems, high standards, things like that. Our turnover rate's very low. We have a lot of great people, highly technical, getting the job done. Thanks. So finishing off here, we're in 2025 now. How we're going to make sure that we maintain the capacity to support the community in that growth and where everybody's pointed through 2050 is really, dedicated a lot mission, make sure that there's a water quality nexus to the work that we're involved in, focusing on innovation, focusing on being adaptable. We went from a system before where we were going to build all these treatment plants, right? And now we're nimble and we can pivot and say it's actually more cost effective to focus on what we have and then invest in other ways. So we have a model that's pretty adaptable. Ultimately, it's going to be community support that gets us there. You see all those community connections I shared with you. So that's the secret. That's how we're going to make sure that we provide the service to our community through 2050 for the next 25 years. And with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Do we have any questions or comments?
Is the biggest barrier on the drinkable water the public perception?
I believe so. I think just the ick factor overall, and it's fair. It comes from different sources. We have great groundwater supplies, and Lot isn't actually looking to get into the drinking water business at all. We just see that we are the treatment experts and it's possible to do. So let's go ahead and show that it can be done. And then ultimately the cities will decide in the future as an entire generation of people get used to that it's possible. Then you get there. So the stream in front of the Hands on Children Museum is a good example. So for 15 years, people have been getting used to reclaimed water and it's not a big deal. And I think this is probably the next thing, just pretty far out in the future. Yeah.
So, oh,
Yeah.
Lot is so cool.
Thank you.
And I could see how it could help with sea level rise long-term as well, not only water shortage, but also sea level rise, potentially pulling water from Bud Inlet if needed and
Right.
spreading it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask though, you said about we need to switch from a 2-pipe system to a 1-pipe system. I'm not really familiar.
Oh, yeah. So some of the barriers, for example, to expansion of reclaimed water is that it takes two pipes to, like, let's say plumb up a house. So our toilets at Lot are flushed with reclaimed water. Those are separate piping systems. Those need to be completely separate from your drinking water supplies that you would drink. Rightly so. Those need to be completely separate. So where reclaimed water has developed across the country, and certainly in our community, are the big users. So we have a big pipe that goes to the Tumwater golf course.
One,
Your port properties and landscaping is right close to Lot, so it's pretty easy. But the people that live out, you know, let's say further out in Lacey, or I mean, it doesn't make sense. You're running pipes all the way out there, piping up people's homes. You need, basically you're building two whole drinking water systems or two water systems.
yeah,
So it's been a barrier, and it's just important to recognize. And so what I'm saying with economics is that for places like in Texas that are faced, they literally have no water. They've had to go to creating this, and now you just have one pipe delivery to everybody. I'm not advocating for that now for a community. That's way far off, but it just, the economics at some point only makes sense for big users of water, at least in our community.
I see. Thank you.
So that is already happening in Texas.
Yeah, so there's many still. California is building 100 million gallon per day facility to do to make water all the way to drinkable standards. Texas, there's a community called El Paso that they're going to be the first ones in the country to actually be direct piping it up from their treatment facilities, because they literally, I mean, they have no other option. Some communities have gone to doing desalination. So it's very similar technology with reverse osmosis and those type of things. So it's already happening in Florida, Arizona, Texas, California. And I go to conferences and I say, what do you wish you knew? They say, I wish we were you 20 years ago. And I hear that saying, okay, for our community, well, we should just get out ahead of this now when we're not in a rush, when we can work with the regulators, when it's just demonstrating it. Everybody can access it if they want to. It's completely disconnected. It's just pretty much a pilot test right now.
Any other questions?
You answered my questions, Matt, in your presentation. So I was curious about capacity and capital projects, but you did a good job with that, as you usually do. And
Thank you.
just want to say I appreciate that you're always available and willing to keep us updated on what lots going on and how we're working together. And
yeah,
just appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and I want to just also add that our staff, Lot and port staff, Alex and I talk a lot, but just really, I think it's the best it's been, and so it just continues to get stronger. So thank you all for that.
Yay.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll now proceed to the next item under pending issues or business. And the second item is a briefing on Foreign Trade Zone 216, presented by Mike Reed, Director of Community and Economic Development. Mike, you have the floor.
Greetings, Commissioner. Again, for the record, I'm Mike Reed. I'm your Community and Economic Development Director. It's a rare night. I get two back-to-back presentations, both of which are fascinating for an Economic Development Director. I will say, though, the second one is simply just much cooler. So if I go a little faster, it's because I'm just excited to get to the next one, too. But with that said, I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you a little program that we have been running here at the Port of Olympia since 1994. And it is called the Foreign Trade Zone 216. And I just wanted to give you kind of a one-on-one about it, or a 101 about it, because we've been hearing more about tariffs and things of that nature, what's going on with international trade. And we have been spearheading and utilizing a tool to help the region. And I do think that this tool can help the region more, and we're seeing more interest in it associated with tariffs. But I had never had the opportunity to talk to the commission, and I didn't know if you knew anything about it. So I just wanted to give you a quick 101 level flyover of what is a foreign trade zone. So next slide. So here's the primary points that I'll hit in this ultimately is what is a foreign trade zone? Why were they established? What are the advantages of a foreign trade zone? And then Foreign Trade Zone 216, that's ours. Give you a couple of pieces about it and then some zone structure. So next slide. So a foreign trade zone, really, it is a secure area located within the United States, but it's considered outside of U.S. custom territory. So it's this weird sort of jurisdictional overlay that you can provide that you're outside of custom boundaries in that area. It allows businesses that are doing import and export. There's a series of tools that they can use to store, process, assemble, and re-export goods in that area. And it was granted through the federal government in 1934. And it really is to help sort of just promote economic activity specific with trade. Next slide. So they were established in 1934 actually as a response to the Great Depression and a way to sort of kickstart some economic activity. There was really high tariffs at that point in time, and this was a tool that was first used. They are actually in numeric order. So the very first one that was established is Foreign Trade Zone 1, and it was in New York. Foreign Trade Zone number 5 is in Seattle, and we are Foreign Trade Zone 216. They gained popularity. They kind of, if I were to show you a chart of like the years in which they were established, you can see whenever we kind of hit an economic downturn or international trade complications, you see an increase in activity of foreign trade zones. So we're seeing it right now as well. There are several ports, and I put a snapshot, it's kind of hard to see on that, of all of the foreign trade zones in Washington State. We've got a number of them. Next slide. Really what they're doing is I tried to summarize, and it's easy to understand kind of the primary tools that you have in a foreign trade zone. The first of which is sort of duty deferral. So once something comes into a foreign trade zone, you do not pay duties or tariffs, if you will, until it leaves that foreign trade zone. So if you've got a product that you know that you've got to assemble, or it's going to take a long time, or what, you can actually, there's some working capital that you can ultimately preserve by not getting hit with that duty payment right as it comes in. So it's going to come into the foreign trade zone designated area, and you don't have to pay their tariff right there. Also, there's some inversion or reduction. So an example would be like a cell phone. When you go to the store and you buy a cell phone, you're going to buy a box. It's going to have a cell phone. It's going to have a battery potentially. It's going to have a charging cord, and maybe it has headphones. Well, the duty on each one of those as an individual product may be different. So maybe one has a 7%, maybe the headphones have a 7% duty, and the plug-in has a 10, and the phone is actually 2.5. Well, if you're kitting those, putting them all into one kit, when that thing leaves the foreign trade zone, it leaves with one rate, the lowest rate. So you'd end up not having to pay 7.5% and 6%, and you'd leave with just a 2.5% duty on it. There is no duty charged on things that come into the foreign trade zone and never hit the American market, but ultimately just get re-exported. So you don't have to pay a tariff on those. There's some logistical savings. There's certain fees that those that are in this space have to pay. Like there's a merchandise processing fee or different sort of fees. There's some streamlining that you can ultimately do with some of those. You have to have a really solid inventory control to get customs approval. So what we also see is folks that are using this actually find some savings once they institute those inventory controls. And then there's the cash flow by not having to expel funds that may not be needed. Next slide. That was, I will just tell you, that was about 2 days worth of conference material about foreign trade zones, synthesized in 6 bullets. So we'll see how that works. So why are we talking about this? Foreign Trade Zone 216. That is the one that we are the grantee. So the federal government has given the Port of Olympia the authority to be the grantee of the Foreign Trade Zone number 216. It's a little weird because it's not just in Olympia, and it's not just in Thurston County. It's actually covering a 4-county region. It goes all the way up to Kitsap and down into Lewis and parts of Mason County. So when it was started, we had these 9 designated locations throughout the 4-county region. Next slide. So, but in 2012, we changed the structure. So it used to be you had to be in one of those 9 locations in that 4-county region. In 2012, we changed it. As long as you're in the service area, you can get the benefit. We called that an alternative site framework. It was a new tool that was rolled out. So it expanded the boundaries. It allowed us to cover more ground. It makes the process to get folks through the activation a little bit quicker, and it's a simplified process for those that are in manufacturing. Next slide. We currently have 3 active users. When I started in January, we were down to 2. It was Bordeaux Winery and IP Callison. Bordeaux Winery is a wine importer. And then IP Callison, they're actually in Lacey. They import mint. Actually, they import mint from India, but they also use mint from Chehalis, where we grow it, and they're making mint products for gums and mouthwash and toothpaste and things like that. Michael's was a user of ours that, since I've been back, has reactivated, and then we have one more new application in front of the Foreign Trade Zone board right now, and we have 3 people kicking tires on this. So we went for years with only 2 active users, and since January we're up to 4 now, with 3 more kind of knocking on door. Next slide. We have a number of partners in this, the first being the National Association of Foreign Trade Zones. I'll actually be going to a conference of theirs in September just to get back up to speed on all things foreign trade zones. We are exploring a relationship with the Thurston County Economic Development Council. I want to see if they would take on the administrator role of this program. We would still be the grantee and still have all of the, frankly, the federal responsibilities on this. But from marketing, answering questions, working with customer base, I'm exploring having the Foreign Trade Zone do that, because we're watching their role in the region even expand as well. So they are doing the same service for the Economic Development District, which includes some of the areas that are in the Foreign Trade Zone as well. And I think it works better as kind of a regional tool beyond us. So we're looking at that. David Ostheimer has been our attorney since on this. He's out of New Jersey, and he is sort of the Foreign Trade Zone guy. And he has worked with us since 1994, since we started this program. And then finally, the U.S. Custom and Border Protection, they play a role in importing and exporting of goods, and they have to be a partner in this as well. I think that might, nope, next slide. So we have a published fee schedule. We haven't changed this fee schedule since, I want to say, 2014. So it may need to be looked at some point in time. They're very standardized fees. There's an application fee, and then you're sort of an annual fee that you pay for this. We have an existing balance. We started in January with an existing balance of 40,000. I anticipate we'll bring in about 28,000 worth of new revenue this year. If we are able to bring on the EDC from an administrator role and our attorney's contract and travel to the conference, those would be the kinds of expenses I anticipate we would be at about $36,000 for expenses, which would allow us to start the new year of 2026 with a fund balance of 32,000. That, I believe, is the last slide. Next. That's it. So any questions? Yes.
Just so I understand, so the Port of Olympia is the grantee,
Yes.
and then say one of the users of the Foreign Trade Zone is Michael's.
Yes.
So they import products and they store it in their own warehouse?
Yes.
They store it in their own warehouse, but because we're the grantee, then we have to make sure that they're following the inventory, the strict guideline rules.
We actually don't really play a role, too deep of a role in compliance. It's the customs that plays a role in the compliance, and they get audited by customs to make sure that they're ultimately in compliance. Our role is to make sure, frankly, all of our users have to submit an annual report to the Foreign Trade Zone Board. And really, that's the end effectively of our compliance, is to make sure that A, they pay us the fee to be able to use the program, and B, that they remain in compliance by submitting the appropriate paperwork to the Foreign Trade Zone Boards. Outside of that, the compliance really is managed by the Customs Department.
Thank you for that. Are we doing anything to actively market?
That's the question.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that we really had done much of anything to do this. And where I am looking at a role for the Thurston EDC is to have them take the role of putting this into frankly, their road show and get out there and beat the bush on this. I just think that it's a more effective tool with them having all of the economic development tools that they can sort of market and showcase. It's a little different. Frankly, it goes so much farther beyond specific tools that we would have for our property. I think that partnering with the county economic development agency makes the most sense on that.
Any? Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Well, and with Port of Bremerton and then Lewis County, it seems like we could be doing some like inter-port marketing as well, as far as advertising, that maybe this isn't even on their radar, but we can offer this support to people in their area.
Yeah, candidly, I think during sort of COVID time period, I think just the visibility of the program really kind of fell off a little bit. So I've come back and tried to re-energize this thing, get it back up to where it would need to be, reconstitute some partnerships, and just bring it back to the radar level that I think that it needs to be. We used to meet with Port of Chehalis, Centralia, and Bremerton on a biannual basis with foreign trade zone discussion. And some of the other, we actually would bring in the city of Yelm, city of Lacey on that conversation as well, and Port of Shelton. So, and they haven't done that for quite some time. So.
And then my only other comment was, it looks like our expenses are more than our revenues.
Yep.
Do we need to raise the fees? I mean, what are the annual cost savings for these entities that are utilizing this program? If it's millions of dollars, then maybe the fee is not commensurate. Maybe it is, or do we just need more people using the program?
I think it's both. I think that I am looking at increased expenses this year by trying to bring on, another party to be the administrator. So there's a new type of expense for that. But these numbers have the fees that we have been charging have not kept up with inflation. So I think part of the thing that we would need to do is look at some of the surrounding foreign trade zones near us and see what their rates and fees are, and get to a point where we're just co-measure it. This is not really a money-making enterprise initiative, but it doesn't mean that we should ever see it run at deficit.
Yep. That would all from a policy perspective, just.
Yep.
That's not my two questions, actually.
Okay.
Great.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to our third briefing, Olympia Art Space Alliance mural project, also presented by Mike Reed.
Okay. Yay, double duty. This one is just really exciting. So a couple of things before I kick into this. First of all, we have 4 esteemed guests with us in the audience tonight. Mariella Lutz, Danielle Ruth, Desiree Freeland, and Joe Seymour. They're going to be part of this conversation in a bit. I'm actually going to hand the mic over at some point in time, but I want to set the framework for this conversation. So it was a number of months ago. I was in a conversation, and I want to give a tip of the cap to some staff members on this. Communications Senior Manager Tabor Lee brought to my attention that he had had a conversation with our marine terminal staff. And so a tip of the cap to them too. And this is some creative thinking that I'm proud to see port staff thinking this way with some creativity and energy and excitement. So there was a conversation that they were saying, hey, we need to repaint the warehouse on the marine terminal. We haven't repainted it since it was built, and it's gray and drab and just boring. And somebody in a conversation said, well, can't we do something kind of cool with it? Maybe we could like put a mural or something on it. And so Tabor brings that to me. And I was like, that is a brilliant idea. We have just the right people that we need to reach out to. So in my previous job at working for the city of Olympia, I was able to work with the Olympia Art Space Alliance and the Olympia Downtown Alliance on a number of beautification and placemaking projects that really made a sense of place, I think, in our downtown and leaned into the sort of creative, artistic identity that we're proud of as a community here. And so when the idea of having a mural on the warehouse came forward, we reached out to this team because I had the opportunity to work with them and knew that they could deliver. So with that, I don't want to tell any more of their story because they're way better at telling it, but they'll tell the story and I'm going to come back. This is just informational advisory at this point in time. We are potentially looking at a contract. So I will consider this advisory at this point in time. When we get the specificity of the contract and the scope of work for this, we'll come back for commission action on that point in time. But it's too cool to hold it any longer. So we wanted to get in front of you. And so with that, I will invite you up. I don't know who wants to go first. Okay.
Hello. I'm Danielle Roos. I'm the board chair for the Art Space Alliance. And if you recognize me at all, it's because I was also, Amy, we worked together at City because I was a longtime chairwoman for the PBIA.
My name is Mariella Luz, and I'm the staff member for Olympia Art Space Alliance.
Wagalapu, Walapu Tradition, Wahalatu Titsta, Squaxadapchas, Pueblo of Akamachas, Talal Stechas. To all you folks, Wahalatu is my ancestral name. I come from Squaxin Island. I also come from the Pueblo of Acoma down in New Mexico. And I make my home here in the traditional land known as Stechas, place of the Black Bear, also known as Olympia.
Yeah. So hi, we're a little less formal than the previous, but also still. So next slide. I included a lot of information in our slides. It's mostly for you. You know, I know your packet is long. I looked at it, so I thought it might be nice for you to look at it. But the Art Space Alliance was founded in 2011. We're a nonprofit that in downtown Olympia. I've been on the board for 7 years. How long have you been on the board, Mariella? Longer. And Desiree is also a board member. So I just wanted to share a little bit about our programming and our background. And next slide. So we fill a unique role in our community by creating opportunities for artists. So one of our major goals in the Art Space Alliance is to strengthen our creative economy by giving low barrier opportunities for artists to make money off of their work. We value paying artists for all opportunities. So everyone who works with us in our community is compensated. We write grants to support our work, and we're engaging in more partnerships as we grow. So next slide. We have some major programming that we do that you're probably familiar with. One is Art in Olympia storefronts. We do a regular art installation on the corner of 4th and Capitol in the Goldberg building. That's a partnership with Oli Fed. The building was empty for years and years. I'm sure we all remember, and now it's lit up. We've done some capital improvement projects on the building. We hold a call for art every quarter. Mariella manages that program. We have a call for art that closes today, actually, for our next show. We do space grants awards. So we award a super low barrier grant to 10 artists every year. This year we chose 11, actually. And we received a generous gift from the Freeze Foundation to keep that work going for 5 years, but it is incredible. We just did a round of grantees and had a party for them on Friday. More than 80 people came. It was at the Mark. It was really sweet. It was a really wonderful event. Next slide. We're also working with the City of Olympia right now to take over the Downtown Olympia Creative District. We received a small grant through Inspire Olympia. For those of you that aren't aware what a creative district is, it's an arts spa designation that we have a sign on the freeway. We are a creative district. We are licensed, and we're trying to make it into something. Last year, we worked with a local artist to do this branding that you see in front of you. And you'll see it a lot more downtown in the coming months. Next slide. Our other project, this passion project of ours, is the Downtown Olympia Mural Project. So, like I said, I was former chairwoman for the PBIA. We did murals and engaged in mural activity downtown. Difficult to do, pretty high barrier because the muralist had to be a business owner, right? File their taxes. And it was just like have insurance. It's kind of complicated when we wanted to work with independent artists. So through the Art Space Alliance, the chair of the PBIA and Amy Buckler approached me at the time and asked me if we'd be interested in partnering. So that was in 2023. We did 3 murals there, including the Keys We Are Not Alone mural on the side of the downtown YMCA. It was an incredible project. We awarded 2 murals last year in partnership with the PBIA, and this year we're continuing the project. Next slide. So connecting artists with businesses has long been the thing. We're so excited about managing this mural project. We've grown a lot over the last couple of years. And I think mentorship is a big part of it. Obviously, our muralist here. So we'll get an opportunity to speak a little bit. So next slide. So this port mural project, when Mike brought it to us, we were beyond stoked. I would say. And actually, when we were having some visioning, I'm going to let Mariella speak about this and then let Joe talk about their vision. And we went and did a site visit and looked, we really saw the potential and thought about, deeply what it would look like from across the water when you're entering the port, how it set the tone for people visiting Olympia. And also as our city kind of expands and uses the water more, right? We know that that's going to change a lot in the next 10 years. So I had quite neat.
Once again, my name is Joe Seymour. If you're not familiar with my work, I had the opportunity to work with the Views on Fifth Development to put the large salmon on the side of the building. That's my work right there. I also worked with Ira Coyne and the ODA in 2012 when Squaxin Island hosted Tribal Journeys. We put the Canoe Journey mural on the old Les Schwab building. And unfortunately, when that building was bought out by, I believe it was John Walker, they tore down the old Les Schwab building and he put up a wall, a retaining wall. And one of the provisions of his development was to replace that mural. So once again, Ira Coyne and I got together and we painted the retaining wall with the Welcome to Squaxin Territory mural. And then we also had the opportunity to paint the other side of that wall with a golden raven. So if you've been to Row, or if you've been down by the water, you've seen my work. I'm very excited about the opportunity to do another series of murals along the water. Every time we've worked on the water, we've always had just an outstanding time. Every time we did these murals, we've always invited community members to be a part of it. Whether it's come from Olympia, whether they come from Squaxin Island, or whether there's indigenous community members, we've always welcomed people to come and pick up a paintbrush. We'll have the opportunity for community members to do that as well. We realize that there are some obstacles in working with the port, and we'll make sure that all those obstacles are met. Everybody registers with the port, everybody's cleared, so that we can have that opportunity to be a part of what I consider to be like an historical event. So.
How about the next slide? This is some more photos of Danielle's a lot taller than I am. Danielle included some work of Joe's on the Views on Fifth. Next slide. These include fabrication. Joe, do you want to tell us where these were made?
Well, the salmon were fabricated up in Seattle because they were one of the only spaces I could find to create the scale of steelwork that we needed. But this was done at Pacific Architecture. They changed their name. Pacific Architecture Steel, I believe they're called. But they're a company based out of Seattle. They were powder coated at Seattle Powder Coat in Seattle as well. Once again, because they had the scale to produce something like this. Yeah, no, and we hired companies from Everett to crane up the pieces of steel and to mount them onto the wall. So.
The previous, so 2 back.
I think one of the reasons that I included this picture is that I was so blown away by just
This picture of you in front of the building as we looked at it for years and years and years with a concept sketch that now is exactly what you executed. And I think one of the reasons I included this is because this is a huge project, right? And like just the vision to reality, right? Like I know that you can execute that, but I'm always so impressed with this kind of planning and vision. So yeah, will you move forward 2 more slides? Let's go.
So we plan to, as far as I know, there has been, we started power washing, or they have started power washing, not me myself, down at the fort already in preparation. This is a 2-year project that will start, this summer. Joe will start at the facing, the Port Plaza, a mural. Are those 6? Yes. Okay, great. So it'll be 5 murals, altogether, 2 this year and then 3 next year. Next slide. Oh, yeah, that last point, which is a good one. This is what we think will be the largest mural on the West Coast. It's a really, really big space. So much square footage. You will be able to see one side from the Port Plaza and then the other sides from not, of course you can't be on the port, but from the West Bay Drive. It's a really great view.
I'll have to tell people that. Yes. Once this thing.
Yeah. And so these would be the 2 murals that get painted this year. Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, the Welcome to Stetchas is part of what I call my postcard series of paintings. And I came up with this concept of combining traditional language with pop art, mainly the like the souvenir type of postcard that you would find in like a curio shop, and then incorporating traditional and place names. You know, like Stetchas means place of the black bear, so it was more of an opportunity for educating everyday people, not just indigenous people, but also community people, non-natives, into what this place was called before it was paved over, before the land was altered. It's also a reminder that indigenous people are still inhabitants of this land. You know, in my travels, I've often heard that, oh, I didn't realize Indians still existed. So it just gives that opportunity for us to identify ourselves, identify our language, identify the land as we know it. And it pays more than just lip service than like the regular land acknowledgement. It also acknowledges the ancestors of this land, acknowledges the characteristics of the land. It also recognizes the land itself. And it also brings a sense of belonging for the indigenous people in this community. So when we say, words like Stetchas or Swakwa, which means place of the raven, it gives us the opportunity to explain that. Why is Stetchas called Stetchas? Well, because when the salmon were running, the black bears would be so plentiful along Butt Inlet that it was called place of the black bear. You'd be more likely to see a black bear eating salmon at Butt Inlet. Same thing with Swakwa. It's a small creek that runs into the Puyallup River, and you'd be more than likely to run into a murder of ravens in that spot. So when we recognize the land, we recognize the ancestors, we recognize the language, I feel it lifts everybody up, not just indigenous people, but it lifts everybody. Rising tide raises all ships. So, and then when I get to incorporate indigenous images. The welcome figure in Welcome to Stetchas was the same welcome figure that I used in the 2012 Canoe Journey mural. So I get to bring her back to life, and I get to bring her back into community. The moon rising over Mount Tahoma. If you look at that image, you'll see that it says Mount Tahoma or Mount Tacoma rather than Mount Rainier. So we recognize that early colonizers recognized Mount Rainier as Mount Tahoma, Mount Tacoma, the ancestral name for the mountain. So, we also get to bring that back into play. So, it's the idea of some of the murals that I wanted to bring into this community. There's also the idea of orcas jumping out of the water, with a big sun behind it. Possibly a school of salmon And one of the funner images I want to bring to this project is a Sasquatch as Vitruvian Man. We're all familiar with the Da Vinci image, but it would be Sasquatch and done in a Salish elements of design. So that was.
Yeah, we had a chance to go down to the port and meet with some of the staff members. And Joe was talking about incorporating some of the history of the port itself and the workers down there into some of these murals, so that it's really a collaboration, not just of Joe's work, but with the doctors and stuff. Next slide.
Yeah, I think that for me, one, it's so wonderful that Mike reached out to us about this project, the partnership, and the enthusiasm, and just even to connect with the board, in this way. But I think that this is a mural that it will bring so much life into the building and also just to the environment. And can be seen from the market, from Port Plaza.
And from Rotary Point.
And from Rotary Point, yeah. It's funny, I'm really excited about it. And I think. Any questions for us?
Any questions? I have a full question.
Commissioner Harding?
So one of these is for, are you coming back up after? So ask now or?
Yeah.
It sounds, I think it tees up the rest of it. Are you looking at this as meeting any of the objectives of Destination Waterfront?
Yeah.
How are you tying that together? And so there's a reason for my question that I'll get to.
Yeah. There's a couple of places where I think that this connects into broader, larger plans. Both Vision 2050, which is our strategic plan, does talk about creating there are some placemaking elements of that, it talks about tying into the placemaking that's occurring at the City of Olympia level, being a good neighbor at the City of Olympia, and then also trying to create a more welcoming presence on the Port Peninsula. So I think that this kind of a program or concept definitely plays into that. I think that having and leaning into effectively the brand that is being built for downtown Olympia as a place defined by art, by artists, allows us to lean into and support that concept. There's also something unique too in the idea of what we call a creative economy. There is work associated with creative work, and it's not just the muralists. It is everybody from the design that participates in this. And it also, I think, is just showing to the business community and decision makers that this is a place of innovation and innovative thinking and creative thinking, which is something that I think as a brand is valuable to us. I mean, I look at the marketplace building right next to this. There are offices in there, and those offices are going to try to attract and retain a kind of a talent and a workforce. And people, we routinely find people choosing Olympia as the place to start their business or locate their business because they're trying to retain and attract innovative thinkers and creative minded folks. So I think that there's a play of that into this. I also think that there's a number of places in the Visitor Convention Bureau's destination planning that they had done just associated with broader placemaking and leaning into the creative work. Also, there was work associated in there about recognizing our history as a community. So I think that there's a couple of spots.
And on that note, I think Joe did a great job of talking about the historical legacy and honoring that. I think that the shorter term history of being a working waterfront and working with our longshore and those honoring and creating a sense of agency for those that are working there still, and incorporating their voice in this project, I think would be important, because they're the ones who are doing the work there every day. I think it's super exciting. I totally track with everything that everyone has said. We have gotten some public comment about like spending all this money on an art project, right?
Sure.
And so some people really that is inspiring and all of these things. And for other people, there's a prioritization of resources that they think the money should be used for something else. So I guess, could you speak, and this is probably not a mic question, this is it, or maybe it's a you, but what I want you to communicate is, why does this matter to people who aren't passionate about art? Why should they support this project? How does this, and you've touched on it, but I just want to.
I will just add one piece just on a dollars and cents standpoint. So there was already money budgeted just to repaint the whole thing gray. And so we are utilizing those dollars. And then, yes, there is an expense above just painting the whole thing gray. But it is less than I think what you would think it would actually be. So to paint a 70,000 square foot building isn't expensive, or isn't inexpensive. So you can choose to paint it gray and save some money, or you can create a sense of place and leverage that. So, but I'll let.
That's my question for you, Mike. So I'd love to see that in your next presentation, just for the public, so it's really clear, you know, what the number is.
Yeah.
You know, realizing, yeah, there's a big price tag with this, but also, you know, I've had inquiries from other local artists who wanted to be a part of this. So, you know, that 12,000 wouldn't just be in my pocket. It would also be spread out to other local artists. So we're giving back to the community. We're also planning on spending the money in local businesses. So, you know, the money that is generated here goes back into the community. So it's not just going to be you know, funneled into one space. It's going to be spread out throughout Thurston County. And even some students at the University of Washington have expressed interest in this. So, you know, just, you know, giving back to the community that's given me so much.
I would just say that that's such a thoughtful, and of course, Amy, we've thought of that.
Yeah.
We get that feedback all the time about public investment in art and placemaking. But what I hear over and over again throughout our community is this feeling of, it's like richness, right? Like people talk about downtown Olympia and our murals and our projects that are happening, and they just say there's something different, right? Small projects like lighting the alleyways or some of the other creative projects we're working on. They just talk about this feeling of like, I don't know, it's not really calculable. It's in the background, right? So it's this feeling of like a rich pattern of artistic identity that our community has. And we do have a rich history of that here. And, you know, Mariella worked on the Olympia Music History Project, which if you haven't heard of that yet, it's really cool and you should check it out. But I think about how we're tying threads and weaving this story of our community, not just for us, but for decades to come. And when you work in the downtown arts community for a long time, you see murals that, you know, are painted and then suddenly are 10 years old or suddenly 20 years old. The Olympia Historical Society is talking about them, right? They become like a point at planning commission meetings. And I just like think that's what we're doing. We're weaving legacy. You have a little thought? Also, I think it's really wonderful that we already have a line item for this. Like, I was thrilled to see that.
Yeah. And I think from my perspective, I'm always about the both and part of what I like about this is we're taking, not everyone thinks industrial lands are cool like I do. And you're taking industrial lands and you're activating them with a different community lens. And so it's that layering rather than taking some cool music venue and putting, well, of course, there's going to be art on it. You know, it's, I think to me, that's part of what makes it, it's advocating for the marine terminal. It's putting eyes on the marine terminal in a new, fresh way where people who aren't excited about Weyerhaeuser or what goes on there is something they will be excited about. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I would also add, there's the theory of economic development, just principle is changing. It used to be that economic development meant exclusively you're going to put some infrastructure in the ground and you're going to attract some new business or recruit some new business to come to your place, and then there'll be jobs and everybody will be happy. It doesn't work that way anymore. And frankly, I'm not sure if that's the way that this community actually even wants it to work. The way economic development is working now is you're investing in your place and in your home, and you are creating an identity in your home that is going to draw the investment to the area. So investment goes where people want to be. It is really hard to attract investment to a place where nobody wants to live. And so investments in place and home and identity and brand and the creativity of that space are investments in economic development. I know that it is a counterintuitive thought for so many people, but I truly do believe that those places that are unique and powerful, think about the cities that have really great brands that have latched on to an identity, has said, this is who we are. This is sort of core to the function. It's sort of woven into the fabric. Their economies are doing better. I'll prove it to you over and over. And I think that it's frankly, in this instance, it's a relatively small investment into that concept. So I'll add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did have one question, Mike. I'll call.
Commissioner,
Sorry.
Commissioner Oil?
Oh, I just wanted
Exciting
to
project. That's
about grants. Yeah, really exciting. Are there any grants available? Have you looked into that possibility, or is that something that's going to be?
Well, this is typically the group that gives the grants. So I don't know if there are grants available out there, but we can look at potential partnerships or other organizations that want to participate in advancing this objective. So
I just have.
yeah. We do have enough money in this year's budget to cover this year's amount. So I'm not concerned there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fun.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to H, the action calendar. There are no items on the action calendar this evening. And I, action other calendar. There are no items on action other calendar this evening. The next item is J, the advisory calendar briefing on financial accounting systems upgrade presented by Brent Barnes, Director of Enterprise Services. This item is for advisory purposes only. No action or vote will be taken today. Brent, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hey, good evening. Again, I'm Brent Barnes. I'm your Director of Enterprise Services. And I'm kind of bummed. This is my first time in front of the commission, and I have to follow this really great presentation on the mural project, talking about an accounting system. But to me, it's exciting. So we'll power on here. Next slide. So the port currently uses a Microsoft product called Dynamics SL, and this is our finance enterprise resource planning system. So it allows us to do pretty much anything that deals with numbers, with accounting. It also houses project planning. It does some facilities and asset tracking, among other things. The kind of why I'm bringing this to you now is that we've been using this system since 1998. That's when the Dynamics SL was purchased. And in that time, it's been upgraded about 3 or 4 times to current versions. The version it's currently on is 2018. Unfortunately, Microsoft is phasing this platform out. And as of December of last year, there was no more updates to it. And in when is it? July of 2028, it will no longer be supported at all. So that has led us to the point where we had to issue a request for proposals to do a competitive bidding process to find a replacement system for this. Next slide. Okay, so the request for proposal. So we started with what the port really needs this system to do. But we didn't specify the platform to be used other than it needed to be based on Dynamics 365. So still the same Microsoft product, the same product we're used to using that everybody's trained on from a fiscal aspect. But we left it up to the vendors on their proposals to tell us which platform, which system they wanted us to, or they wanted to pitch to us. So there's two different Microsoft Dynamics 365 platforms. One is Business Central, and the other is Finance and Operations. So we received proposals on both of those, and with the understanding that we wanted to integrate as many of our other disparate systems as we could into the new Dynamics model. And so the new one's the cloud-based system, whereas our current one is an on-premise server-based system. So I listed some of them up here. We wanted to be able to integrate Molo, which is our marina reservation system. Does some other stuff too. FSM, which is the fuel management system. Manager Plus, which we're not currently using to its full capacity, but it's an asset management system. It also does ticketing system for when you need maintenance done. It can track everything from when you purchase a piece of equipment to all your periodic maintenance needs and how much that's cost over time. And then Laserfish, which is our electronic content management system. The way it works right now is many of these systems, because they're not integrated, requires us to export the data in some sort of format, send it over to finance, and then have them re-input it into Dynamics, which causes some issues with, well, one, efficiency, but errors in and timeliness of the data. So this new system will not only integrate all of those, it's adding some capacity we don't currently have. So property and lease management, we're using a kind of in-house built access system right now. This will be completely integrated in, which will allow you to do the full life cycle of a lease, which is really cool. It'll do it automatically, send out all the lease updates, fee increases, all those things will be done automatically through the system. And it'll have a kind of a customer relations, a CRM model to it, where they'll be able to have all the data for the leases all in one place. This new system will come with a really robust staff training model to include manuals and procedures all written up for us, so we don't have to do those ourselves, which is really nice. Oh, ADP integration. So I'll talk about that a little bit further on, but ADP is the payroll and HR system that we're currently using for payroll. We're not using the HR function of that. However, we are upgrading that currently, and it'll have an HR function. So originally, when we sent out this RFP, we asked for a payroll and an HR module to be built out, which is obviously a cost associated with that. When we did the oral interviews, we said, hey, we don't really want to do that because we've already signed a new contract with ADP. ADP is a really common integration with Dynamics. And so the cost will probably be less since we're using ADP. So that's what that last bullet is. Next. Okay, so what were the requirements built on? And there was one of your question for Mike is, how does this support Vision 2050? And so I'll start there. Vision 2050 under the account or the administration goal, there's 3 different action items that this supports. One is action item 41, which is evaluate and implement governance structure improvements. And then action 43, strengthen communication and trust between commission and staff. And finally, action 44, be transparent in budget planning and align actions with 2050 goals. Additionally, earlier this year, we did a finance and accounting assessment. And in that assessment has a range of recommendations. This supports a number of those. One was the one I was just talking about earlier, which is the ADP upgrade to, it's called ADP Comprehensive Pay, which we've already done. We start the migration on that on the 24th, so a couple weeks from now. And we'll be doing the sandbox piece of that and building it out. And then it goes live, I want to say August 8th. And that'll be the first payroll period we'll use it. And that comes with an HR module, which is really nice because we have no HR management system here. And so this is kind of a small component of that that allows you to directly feed into payroll. So we don't have to send all the in-processing paperwork for a new person over, so we can add all their data in there. This allows us to do it automatically. It also allows new employees the opportunity to put all their documents in a Dropbox there, electronically sign everything. It just makes the process a lot smoother. So back to the finance and accounting assessment. The assessment also talked about the need to integrate our systems, which we are doing. And it encouraged us to do this migration on Dynamics sooner than later. And so that's kind of the time sensitive piece of this right now. And also, to be frank, I get nervous when we don't get updates for our systems. This new system addresses a need that we've heard over time of having real-time reporting to our managers, and also being able to give you as a commission really up-to-date and timely data on our performance. And the other piece of this is this will give us the baseline tool set to create key performance indicators, to be able to create dashboards that we could put on our website, more than likely using some sort of Power BI type of format. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about costs. So we received 12 proposals. We utilized a 3-person review team to score those. And we conducted oral interviews with 2 of the vendors. That's what we narrowed it down to. Both of those vendors were using the Business Central model. What we had discovered is that the finance and operations platform is really cool. The demos on it were really inspiring, but it was really overkill for what we need. And also its costs were exponentially higher. Our winning vendor is Advaya. They're a company that's based out of India. That's where most of their programmers are, but they have a Seattle, or I think it's a Bellevue-based office. And they were the highest scoring submittal, and they provided the best answers during our oral interviews. Their implementation, licensing, and service level agreement costs were some of the lowest that we received. And their implementation time was about 48 weeks, which really seemed doable to us, because we had some as low as 24 weeks, which, when I hear 24 weeks, that tells me that our staff time would be quite large in that. And we just don't have the capacity to do it, especially with a fairly new finance and accounting crew. And the one-time cost, you can see them up here for implementation, licensing, and service level agreement. So the first year overall cost would be $179,000, then it would go down to $44,000. And I'll give you some context on that. But first, just looking at the proposals, of all those we received, they ranged on the implementation cost from this $132,000 that you see to $2.1 million. It's a large spread. They all had kind of different pros and cons to them, but overall, the financial and operational ones were really expensive, and we just didn't feel we needed to go that route. The licensing piece, so licensing and service level agreement was this is another big spread, $24,000 to $440,000 a year. Again, we didn't need all the bells and whistles, so this is kind of what we're recommending. And so the context I was going to give you is in 1998, when we purchased Dynamics SL, the the port paid $216,000 for both the software and the implementation. Currently, we pay about $8,000 a year in licensing and service level agreement support. And we pay another $9,000 for Manager Plus, which we believe will be able to replicate functionality in this new system, and so that cost will go away. Next slide. Okay, so the next steps on this. So this is an advisory briefing. In 2 weeks, bring this back to you for a decision. And a recommendation. So recommendation, decision on the recommendation. The next slide. I'm here for your questions.
Is there any questions or comments or discussion?
Did you say anything about the timeline of the transition?
Yeah, so it'll be 48 weeks. That's their estimate, 48 weeks from the time that we implement the contract and start discovery. I'm not even with the commission's decision on moving forward and writing a contract, we probably won't get started on this work until the fall.
And is Firefly going to have any involvement with this, or is that a completely separate entity?
So Firefly does not manage Dynamics for us, nor are they a license provider. So this part of the deal with the RFP was that the vendors that were putting their proposals forward for implementation also had to have license agreements with Microsoft. And so, no, they would not. Other than, well, let me back that up. Yes, because they maintain the current Dynamics servers. And so they would help us get them access to those servers so they could get the data. Additionally, down the road, we have to decide what we're doing with our historical data, because we're not migrating everything over to the cloud. The storage cost is way too high. So we'll either archive those on site, or we'll go through a cloud-based archiving system.
Okay, great. So there may be additional costs from Firefly, but not much.
Not much.
The integration cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they built it into next year's budget for that piece about the server.
Great. Thank you.
Will some of the historical data be moved over?
Yeah, so the general ledger data, it's about 2 to 3 years that they move over. All your customer data moves over, no attachments. I got to work with them some more to really understand the technology behind it, but they're able to reach back into the archives if they need to get that stuff.
Thank you.
You got your first one done.
Here we go.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item K, Commissioner Reports and Discussion. I will start with you, Commissioner Montano.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Isle?
Yeah, I got a couple things I wanted to report this evening. One of my committee assignments is the Transportation Policy Board. And there's been a couple of topics lately that have gotten a lot of attention. And so I thought I'd just brief the commission here today. So I don't know, maybe if you have any questions, hopefully I can clear that up. So one of the issues was that generated significant attention was a recommendation to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion language from the regional transportation plan. And it was due to concerns about potential conflicts with federal transportation funding requirements. The Thurston Regional Planning Council promptly and decisively rejected that recommendation. But I think it's important to understand that the intent of the Transportation Policy Board was just to make sure that we retained access to resources that support all transportation projects that benefit the community. There was no intention to compromise our shared values, and no intention to undermine or exclude any segment of our population. And so, you know, our collective commitment was to equity and inclusion remain strong and central in our policy making. The other topic was removing the log cabin road from the transportation plan. The Thurston Regional Planning Council recommended removing the road. However, the policy board decided to recommend that the road, the planned road, remain in there until the surveys were complete. But there's an amendment that will give the local jurisdictions the authority to remove that particular road if they see fit. So just wanted to throw that out there so that you, in case you had heard anything. The other thing is the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which I'm also appointed to. We did not have a formal meeting in July, but we did have scheduled a tour of the Thurston County Waste and Recovery Center. And that was scheduled for July 11th. However, earlier that week, members of the Teamsters Local 252, representing sanitation workers in Lacey, held a picket outside the facility as part of their effort to secure fair wages and improved healthcare benefits from Republic Services, the operator of the site. And as a 46-year member of a labor union, I felt it was important to honor their demonstration and chose not to cross the picket line. And as a result, I did not attend the tour. So just keeping you updated on that. The final thing I'd like to say is that I am also a representative to Joint Base Lewis McChord, and I was honored to attend the change of command ceremony for the 593rd Corps Sustainment Command at the invitation of Lieutenant General Matthew McFarlane. He's the commanding general of America's First Corps. During the ceremony, Brigadier General Kevin Cotman formally passed command to Colonel Aaron Miller. The event was conducted with full military and tradition and ceremony, including an Army band, several hundred marching soldiers, and a ceremonial cannon salute. And it was really quite a moving ceremony, and I enjoyed it very much. And so appreciate our military for that. So that's my report.
Commissioner Hardy?
I'll just piggyback on Commissioner Isle. The Transportation Policy Board makes recommendations to the Thurston Regional Planning Commission, which is where I sit. And regarding the diversity, equity, and inclusion language, there was some criticism of the recommendation. And I just want to say from my lens, there were some memos and meetings that happened between the Transportation Policy Board's recommendation and the Thurston Regional Planning Commission that changed a number of the committee members that I spoke with's mind on the issue. So I think we were all on the same page as far as trying to continue to do what's best for everyone in our community, and doing so in an authentic way, but also being practical. So appreciate the Transportation Policy Board's work on that, as well as Log Cabin. I got to go, Leadership Thurston County did a youth program at Newmarket, and I got to go with a handful of other electeds from jurisdictions and talk to the group about what it's like to be an elected, and it was super cool and inspiring. Being around young people always reminds me why we are working on the issues that we're working on and trying to fulfill our mission, because that's who we're doing it for. And my quote of the day is from Leo Roston. I learned that it is the weak who are cruel, and that gentleness is only to be expected from the strong.
Thank you. I just have to report that I had a great time with staff and fellow commissioners at the Capital City Pride Parade, as well as sharing the stage with Commissioner Harding at their last summer concert. Was super fun. Thank you for sharing the stage with me. So moving on, we will proceed to the next item, L, other business. Is there other business to come before the commission?
I just have one, or do you have one?
I have one too, but you can go ahead.
I just wanted to let the commission know that Experience Olympia and Beyond has a new executive director, and we are working on some improved communication with the jurisdictions as far as representing what they would like to see from Experience Olympia and Beyond. So staff and commission, have your ears open, and if you can help be the conduit for what our partner jurisdictions would like to see as far as tourism, please let me or someone else on the board know so we can continue to have alignment.
Commissioner Isle?
Yeah, first, let me say this. I meant to say it in commissioner reports, but let me say it now. I just want to commend our Commissioner Sanders, our Vice President, for obviously preparing yourself and being enthusiastic about presiding over this evening's meeting. You've done a great job, so thank you for that. My other business is it's related to a few months ago, we had a group of carpenters here, and they talked about project labor agreements. I've given that some considerable thought since they were here, and I think it would be worthwhile for us to explore the idea of creating a policy for to use project labor agreements as a strategic tool for our capital projects. PLAs they're basically a collective bargaining agreement that are established between the public project owners, which would be the port, general contractors, and trade unions. And they've been widely adopted by other public agencies like the Port of Seattle, Sound Transit, WashDOT, and they've proven to deliver large-scale infrastructure projects on time, on budget, and with a reliable, high-quality workforce. So some of the key benefits are labor and project stability, creating workforce development as PLAs require the use of state-registered apprenticeships. They can contain local hire and equity goals. They can create a more predictable cost and set the standards in the cost of projects. And they can support small and local contractors by leveling the playing field for contractors to pursue some of these works. There are certainly some risks. State and local grants are generally compatible with PLAs, but federal grants may require some extra due diligence. But I think at the end of the day, we can mitigate those risks. And at least I would like to recommend that we have a further conversation at an upcoming work session or retreat. I know we have that coming up. So if the rest of the commission is in agreement with that, I would like to propose that we do that.
Alex, can we add that to a work session? If it's agreed with the president.
I would like more information on what we're looking at doing before we embark upon it, but I'm definitely open to discussing it further. Before dedicating a lot of staff hours, I'd want to better understand what you're.
Right. I think the conversation is what is the next step.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Marcano?
Yes, I just wanted to flag the emails we've been receiving about flight paths. We've
Yes.
received a couple of them, so I think after we get over the SEPA hurdle, maybe we can look at the flight paths as we transition the airport into the next master plan, or what the next steps are. I don't know that we necessarily need to do this right away, but looking into what we could do to abate the noise for those that live near the airport, and maybe move the training paths. It would be helpful. I know there's some different alternatives in our current master plan, but it seems like we need to wait until our updated master plan facility decide what we're doing there.
Yeah,
I
we'll
know that's on hold right now.
gather more information and sure. If you want to make some decisions about that.
Hearing no other business, we'll proceed to M, meeting announcements.
Favorite part of the evening. I guess it's right at the end. Our upcoming meetings are tomorrow night here in this room at 5 p.m. There's a Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, always a public meeting. On Monday, July 28th, there's a special meeting / work session where we'll be talking about our business line financial performance with the commission. And then also on Monday, July 28th, just following our work session, we'll have a regular commission meeting. I don't think we have a heavy agenda, so hopefully we won't overload you all that evening. And then our next regular business meeting in August is August 11th, 5:30 PM here. And just a reminder, we only have one regular business meeting in August to give everybody a break. And that is it.
Thank you, Alex. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned.